Hey guys, it's Angelo, and welcome to the first look of the Holy Priest on the World of Warcraft Shadowlands Alpha. The Holy Priest concludes our first look of the Priest on the Alpha, and out of all the three specs, the Holy Priest actually has the coolest changes, or rather, so far seems to be able to make the most interesting use out of many implemented changes and spells. From being able to actually dealing some Discipline Priest competitive damage, in theory at least, when looking at the new fuller toolkit, to a talent which will add a lot more fun and quicker gameplay to the spec. The Holy Priest certainly looks promising. Now please keep in mind that everything you are about to see is still in the early stages of the alpha, so things are subject to change, and in fact, very likely will. In this first look video, I will cover everything that has changed up to this point, giving you guys detailed insights at the structure of the new Holy Priest as a whole. To be more specific, we'll be addressing current class changes, so talents, abilities, as well as removed aspects or spells from the spec, as well as giving you my opinion on how the spec is currently looking when considering this for the actual Shadowlands release, so kind of like a personal feedback section, which will be interesting for you as well as for any developers watching this video. Now, if you'd like to join a discussion with all things related to the Priest, be sure to join our Discord server with the link in the description box of course, and be sure to subscribe to this channel if you wish to remain updated on future videos, as we still have a load of stuff to cover in the upcoming weeks and months for the Shadowlands Alpha. Good, now that being said, and without any further ado, let's go right ahead and have a look. Alright, so let's start us off with our abilities. In Shadowlands, all priests will have access to certain abilities no matter their spec. There are quite a few spells new or returning here for the Holy Priest, and as with all other priest specs, those are Mind Blast, Mind Soothe, Mind Seer, Power Infusion, Desperate Prayer, Power Word Shield, and Shadow Word Death. The most interesting new spells here are all in form of damage, most importantly Mind Blast and Shadow Word Pain and Shadow Word Death, which actually give the Holy Priest a total of 7 damaging abilities, which is pretty crazy if you think about it. On top of this, there's also very interesting changes to our healing rotation, being that Circle of Healing is now baseline, Prayer of Mending is an instant cast, and we are also able to use Power Word Shield. Now we get a brand new talent, but more on that later in this video. We also have some new Covenant abilities, which are part of the new idea of the Covenants in Shadowlands, granting you various different abilities depending on your class and your spec. Now I will go into greater detail with those in a separate video, in order of course to keep this one a bit more structured, and once that is done, the link should pop up on your screen, well pretty much now. For now, we'll give them a brief rundown. The Boon of the Ascended from the Kyrians grants us access to the Ascended Nova, which replaces Smite during its duration and is essentially a heavy AoE bombing ability and also has a single target to it. Mind Games from the Venthyr, which is a single target damage spell with a small twist which restores mana. Unholy Nova from the Necrolords, which is an AoE dot spread, and Fey Blessings from the Night Fae, which, for Holy Priests, grants us Flash Heal, or rather grants our Flash Heal and our heal a 10% damage reduction on that healed target, and grants allies mana for each Power Word Shield applied to them, while Prayer of Healing reduces the cooldown of allied abilities, so quite cool changes all in all and cool game updates so far. And again, the Covenant abilities will be covered in a separate video. Good. Next up, we'll be taking a look at our talents. Now, the Holy Priest sees the least amount of changes here so far, but the change that does take place is pretty neat. Good. Now, when looking at our talents, the Holy Priest again sees the smallest amount of changes, in fact, only one. This change though comes in form of a brand new talent called Prayer Circle. Prayer Circle empowers Circle of Healing, reducing the cast time whenever you use Circle of Healing for your Prayer of Healing by 30% for 8 seconds. This will make Prayer of Healing a faster cast than your Flash Heal, which is an incredibly strong tool for healing incoming group damage on up to 5 targets. This talent replaces the Circle of Healing talent, as Circle of Healing is now, as stated before, baselined into our toolkit. All other talents which were previously at your disposal, or rather currently are in Battle for Azeroth, will remain in Shadowlands, at least at this point in time. Prayer Circle gives the Holy Priest an easy fix to one of its problems from Battle for Azeroth, which was very slow group healing. Even though we were able to do a lot of group healing, especially via our mastery and through Prayer of Healing and Prayer of Mending, the comparatively long cast time limited the priest from using any other abilities except for the Holy Words, while a lot of group damage was coming in. Seeing as haste was not our main stat in Battle for Azeroth, this only worsened the issue. Now with the new talent, a playstyle centered around Prayer of Healing becomes plausible and easily playable right from the start, with less stress and less problems for the Holy Priest involved. Now, should any other talents change, be added or removed, I'll be sure to keep you informed, but so far, so good. Next up, we'll be looking at the spell changes in detail, and well, here's where most Holy Priests will probably see their favorite changes. Flash Heal has had its base cost changed from 3% to 3.6% base mana, while Heal has received the same treatment from 1.9% to 2.4% base mana. Holy Fire is not an instant cast anymore, but instead now has a 1.5 second cast time. Prayer of Healing has had its cost changed from 4.5% base mana to 5%, and Prayer of Mending is now an instant cast, giving the Holy Priest another spell to make use of while having to move, and makes it easier to keep the spell on cooldown at all times. Circle of Healing, as stated before, is now also baseline. Now, personally, I think that it's a good idea of Blizzard to place emphasis on both Prayer of Mending and Prayer of Healing, while making Circle of Healing baseline opens up the talent row with Surge of Light, Binding Heal, and now Prayer Circle up to be a lot more versatile. Throughout Battle for Azeroth, that specific talent row was pretty one-sided, favoring Binding Heal throughout all of Uldir and going towards Circle of Healing with the Battle for Dazar Allure, remaining that way for raiding essentially the rest of the expansion. With this change, both Prayer Circle and Binding Heal will have their uses, where one does not simply outshine the other in every way, while Surge of Light will still remain strong in Mythic Plus and can potentially be used in a raiding environment without sacrificing your potential output that much. Overall, of course, it's still incredibly early and remains to be seen whether or not the dream of more talent diversity will come into effect, and well, here's hoping it will. As of right now, I honestly don't see any negative aspects of the Holy Priest, or rather to the Holy Priest. As with essentially all other classes and specs in the game, I do fear that the lack of currently important Azerite traits like Prayer for Litany or Words of Mending as well as Azerite traits rather, like the Vision of Perfection or the Ever-Rising Tide, is something we do need to think about, and this will make the early game a bit challenging, possibly. In the dungeons I ran as a Holy, some bosses were able to deal quite a load of damage, and the group healing I was able to do via Circle of Healing, Prayer of Healing, and with using Prayer Circle did feel a little weak. Now this concludes our first look for all three priest specs, and in my opinion all three priest specs still require a lot of work. I've outlined the problems with the Disc and the Shadow Priest in my according first looks, but the Holy Priest as well may be running into problems with Azerite traits especially. It'll remain to be seen how Covenant skills will change the way the specs play and feel without the, well, traits and essences, but until then, I truly hope that the developers will listen to the feedback they do receive on the alpha. Of course, this is still subject to change, so I'm not overly worried here yet. Again, I will be sure to inform you continuously of upcoming changes, so be sure to stay updated on the content of this channel by subscribing. A special thanks as always to my supporters over at Patreon, and if you've enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, as that helps me out a lot. Thank you everyone for watching, enjoy patch 8.3, get excited for Shadowlands, and I will see you all in the next one.